Hey, welcome to Jamming with Johnny, KC Bass Stream. Today we have Nash Tomey from the Kansas City Symphony. He also recently started teaching at UMKC, which is the conservatory in Kansas City. He's the second place winner of the ISB solo competition this last year. And we talk a lot about how passionate he is about playing in the orchestra. And he's really an exciting young player. You'll get to hear his performances, and you also get to hear his background and how he became this career path. So for all you young listeners, it will be a good thing to listen to, maybe inspire you. As always, we hope you like and subscribe to KC Bass Stream, our YouTube channel, and Podbean. Enjoy. I'm Johnny Hamill, and welcome to Jammin' with Johnny, KC Bass Stream. I have a unique way of life as a bass player and music educator. I felt like having a podcast long overdue. I'll talk shop with all my creative friends and shine light on things happening in KC. All right, welcome to Jammin' with Johnny, the KC Bass Stream. We have Nash Tomey here. He's from the Kansas City Symphony, and he's been here for 5 years now.
5 years now, yeah. I came in 2017. This is
Wow.
my 5th year.
I kind of grabbed that time out of thin air. I'm cooking with fire, and he's also just recently, officially, the bass teacher at UMKC, which is the conservatory here in town.
Yeah.
And so that's really exciting. And over the pandemic, since he wasn't playing the orchestra, he decided to do something really cool, which was do the ISB competition. And you came in second, man.
Yeah, I know. I didn't do too bad. I was like, we'll see
Too
what happens.
bad. That's a badge of honor, man. It's really exciting. And I saw your name on the list and I just got really excited. So I like to start with some music so people can hear everyone play and enjoy some music. So I got it queued up to hear. We're going to listen to the Gabrielli. You actually arranged this one?
Yeah.
And it's really fantastic. Great playing. Do you want to say a couple things about this?
Sure.
It's
I originally heard these pieces done by Edison Ruiz on bass, but I kind of wanted to do something a little more like improvisational with it.
Oh, nice.
So there's the beginning and end of it in the piece are very sparsely written in the part. Mm-hmm. They're just written as whole notes. And it's kind of implied that you should embellish it. So the beginning of this and the very end are kind of mostly written by me.
So
and then the rest of it's Gabrielli.
Can it just for me? Are you improvising, or did you?
They're my ornaments.
You wrote out.
Yeah. So it kind of makes a little French overture of it. Very epic sound.
And you have that so shared to other people. Can we download and buy this?
I don't think I've ever written it down, but I should.
Oh, yeah. So you composed it by playing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's almost improvising.
Yeah. I improvised it, but I do it the same way every time.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. That's cool. I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Great. All right, so hope you enjoy. Excellent, right? Yeah, nice.
Always weird watching yourself play, but
I was just thinking that when you, it was, yeah, I would never want to watch myself again after, especially you put all this stuff into it. But hopefully,
I'm proud of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of shaking in my chair here, going. There was a couple of phrases that just went right through me, and I mean, the whole concert is like this. That it's really stellar playing, and just incredible sense of detail that you have, and your, what you choose.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that you were improvising at the beginning, so that's even cooler for me. Like that's
it's in the part. It's written just as like 4 whole notes in D minor.
Yeah.
And it's like he's kind of saying like, do something fun here. And
Yeah.
then, then start.
Yeah. And so it's just when I hear music like that, I just, for people out there listening, like some people that are listening are not necessarily, classical people, but I could listen to that all day. You know what I mean? Like it teleports me into where music takes me.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people that it doesn't matter if it's great music like that. It just, and I was doing that here while we were sitting, and I was trying not to lose it because my face was on there, but it was really cool.
Well, like with this piece, like it sort of takes, when you're doing a competition, there's sort of categories you have to fall into.
Sure.
Right? And I kind of wanted to avoid playing Bach. I hate to say that.
Yeah, no,
but only because I wanted to play a piece that didn't have like the baggage.
Yeah.
Of like, I know how that goes. Oh, I know what the next phrase is going to be like. I usually play it this way. I wanted something where someone could listen to it, and even if they know the piece, it's probably going to be more fresh.
Yeah.
Like I want, and that was generally
and that definitely was. And I want to say that about this whole program. We don't have time to listen to all of it, but it's obviously it's up on YouTube for everyone, right?
There, yeah.
So anyone can listen to the whole thing, and it's 40 minutes of nonstop. This is what it takes to win the competition, which is pretty great. But your selections for the solo thing were really impressive. Some of them you arranged like this. Mm-hmm. You arranged this one for by yourself, and a couple other pieces in here that you found and arranged.
Most of them were arrangements. Most of them
by you.
By me. For the most part, I wanted to choose repertoire for this that like was on my own terms.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time, with orchestra playing or even with solo competitions, there's requirements. In orchestra, like you're told what you're told what to play, and we enjoy most of it. We find ways to enjoy the rest of it. But if I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna try out for this competition, but like I kind of want to do it on my own terms. It's not. I didn't want to.
And it's nice because it paid off.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this really nice, that we can hear the whole program. And sometimes I say this to like some of my students. I'm like, hey, you need to find what really pushes your buttons. Like don't try to second guess. The judges.
And I love playing Bach. Like I play it all the time, but I wanted something that I wanted it to be mine. And like I don't think I'm ready for Bach to be mine yet. I'm still a little young, So I was like,
But you're also right. We have the iconic, great versions of Bach, even on the bass. But like it's hard because the cellists own that piece. It's brilliantly written for the cello, and some of the other pieces maybe, like they're more going to the other instruments. Not that I love all the suites on the bass too, but sometimes in different keys work better, and all that stuff. That's just a really great beginning to this topic of, I wanted you to talk about the selections of everything, because you talk to me. We've had a couple of discussions on this thing, but I want to talk about the rest of the program.
Yeah.
Because how did you find the other ones? You've told me a couple things,
so,
like you're inspired by everything.
Each piece is like has its like certain inspiration.
Yeah.
And usually it's like a performance or a recording that I really am attracted to. Then I was like, I need to do that piece.
Yeah.
So this one, I had heard a recording of both like Bettina Hoffman, who's a Baroque cellist, her play it, and Erickson Ruiz, who's a bass player in Berlin. He plays these as well on bass, and I was just blown away by it. They're precursors to the Bach suites, so they're absolutely that germinating seed where the Bach suites kind of came from musically.
Right.
And I really was attracted to that.
Predate the Bach suites.
Yeah, by about 30 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Gabrielli was a virtuoso cellist.
Yeah.
So they're written by a cellist. But the interesting thing about his cello was it was tuned with fourths on top.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was So it's almost
works better on bass.
Oh,
we could say that. It's bass string. It's bass string.
I like it. And so that's where that one came from. There's 7 of these pieces, but this is the one I liked. I chose to do. I play a couple of them normally, but I really like this one. And then after this one, I paired. I was thinking of doing another Gabrielli, a D. This one's D minor. I was thinking of doing a D major afterward.
Yeah.
But then I thought, I want to put some variety in there, so I chose a D major rondo by Carl Friedrich Abel, who was a gamba player. He was really the last gamba player in the classical era. So it's classical music, but it's on a gamba. And so there's who Paolo Pandolfo is? He's a gamba player who has incredible recordings of the Bach suites arranged for gamba. But he also has a whole album of Carl Friedrich Abel's gamba pieces. And the piece is so playful and so wonderful, and I wanted to arrange it for bass.
Yeah, so that's wonderful that there was, almost every piece. So there's almost 8 or 9 selections on this.
I think 6.
6. There's so many on here that are really wonderful, but you really thought about the whole program.
Yeah,
it was very great. And even you decided the required piece was a modern piece. So you told me that you wanted to play another modern piece, but you felt like it would have been too much like the required
I wanted it to be a little something of everything. I didn't, and that's why I didn't want to do another to Gabrielli. So I was going to do a piece by George Pearl, which is a solo bass piece called Monody, but it's it has some similar qualities to the Grabling Hay that was the required piece, which is a wonderful piece. It was very challenging to put together with piano because it's very intricate to lock in.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that that piece shined and wasn't detracted by having another piece that sounded like it with it. After that one, I played the first movement of the Hertel Sonata, which, out of probably all the pieces that were like inspiration pieces, I was like cruising the internet, cruising YouTube in like maybe 2015 or something, I think, and I saw Simon Marciniak's recital. It's the one where he has the purple shirt. He has the purple shirt recital, and I saw the Hertel Sonata, and I was blown away. I mean, by the piece, because I've heard the piece before, but no one had played it like that. Like it was interpretation wise, it was off the charts.
He's
so I was like, I immediately I bought the music, and it stayed in my drawer for 4 years. I never took it out, but I was like, I'm gonna do it.
Exactly. Like that's happens to all of us that we hear this piece and like, oh, I have to get that one. And then sometimes we don't have time to work on it, and we save time for it or whatnot. Right. And I think that's important for all of us as artists out there. Just when we see something we like, just to gravitate toward what you like. Because it's too much time when you're trying to even win a competition, it's nice that you didn't come, well, I had to play Bach because everybody has to play Bach on the competition. You can't win. No, it's not that way. It's actually, in this case, you actually did win, and you did it on your terms, which is even more exciting.
I wanted to play the pieces that I was really, really, that like meant something to me in a very personal way.
Exactly.
In a very personal way.
And I think that's really, I think we're just in such a great place as bass players now, because, you know, I'm older than you, Nash. I hate to tell you that,
really?
But but you know, I kind of feel like when I was in college, you know, there was 5 bass concertos, and they're the normal 5: Dragonetti, Kuskowitsky, Bottesini, you know, Dittersdorf. You know, like you pick one. That's the one you.
That's your piece for the rest of your life.
Great, and then it's just hit the bass lines, you know. Yeah. And so it wasn't really a fruitful solo world, you know.
Yeah.
And then of course, I remember doing a master class with Edgar, and he was like, "You have to find your own pieces, because there's just not enough out there for us. It's not. But now,
I mean, and there's so much that there's so many people doing so many interesting things, composing and arranging, or finding pieces that, you know, they're the whole Prague school of bass playing from Hertel and Posta and Micek, you know. That virtuosic school of playing was, you know, so ahead of its time. Ahead of its time. Incredible stuff. And then, now with the internet and all, it's like,
it's
all you
easier.
gotta do is, you know,
it's easier to find.
Type it in. There it is.
I have to say, for mine, it was like go to the cabinet, which was a whole bunch of solo pieces, and like pick one for your you know, your jury.
You don't necessarily know what it sounds like either.
It was it was not very exciting. So now you get, like, as you hear a solo piece, and you're just so blown away. You're like, I didn't know something could be that beautiful.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it doesn't, you know, like, it doesn't have to be, it could be anything musically. You know, like, the world is just open, and that's just exciting, you know?
Yeah, and you know, hearing some of these pieces, hearing the Hertel, and like being inspired to play it, I had never heard a bass piece quite like that. If you get to hear the second, you know, I don't play the second movement, but the second movement's just so gorgeous. It's the writing is so it's kind of a weird mix of like a Eastern European Bartok thing, with like almost like a Hollywood-esque, you know, like West Coast Hollywood writing in the early 40s. You know, that sort of
exactly,
like Korngold sort of thing.
Or
like, you know, the big movie scores. So it kind of goes back and forth between that. Just in general, his harmony and his writing. And there's nothing like that for bass. Like, for the most part, like a lot of what we hear is like very it's very like stuck in, like, not stuck, but it's very like niche in certain terms of its style. But this, I was really impressed by that in the piece.
Well, and it's nice to hear your interpretation of that, you know, like, that's what's great. And I think, you know, like, we played this concert on our little Kansas City Bass Festival, which is our faculty recital at the end of the night. And what I've been really finding, and what's exciting about this, is that, you know, as I say, most people don't know the bass can move you like that. That's just you, man, with the bass, you know? Like, I mean, that's incredible that you just almost had me tears here, you know, like, I was shaking.
I didn't really know that was possible. I mean, like, when I was growing up playing, you know, I grew up, my father was a guitarist, and he played electric bass, and so I learned electric bass a little bit from him, and then I started upright the year after that. And I was talented and quite quick to it. But you know, I didn't really know much about like the solo playing world, or like I kind of was like big small fish in a small pond, big fish small, whatever the phrase is.
That's definitely the bass world. Is like, you're the only one that can actually handle the orchestra part in your high school, and so there's no reason to
you're like, I'm the best.
So I think in like ninth grade, among other things, I think one of the big ones was getting into some of the bigger youth orchestras and seeing some of the amazing players there, but also going. I didn't really get to hear solo playing there, but I knew people. I know, like, you kind of like, oh, people are doing it, but like,
Yeah,
I didn't get
it's
to hear
not
it.
your friends or your colleagues
Right.
or something going.
And it wasn't what was happening.
And it wasn't on bass.
Yeah,
It was the violin or cello.
Right.
And yeah, that's definitely like.
Yeah. And so I think we were talking about when I first met Johnny.
Yeah. You were at the workshop.
Yeah,
George's.
I met him at the George Vance Workshop.
You were
in DC.
you were one of the little kids that comes up to me later and like, do you remember me?
Yeah.
It's I've told you that story that Rex Serrani kind of looked at me and was like, Johnny, and he was huge then, like he's a big guy. At least you're not. I don't know how so, but like I'm working this workshop and I'm sure, it's a long time ago, and it's like a whole week, and then you don't see everybody for a long time. So, and you said you came there just the one time, and that's where you saw.
That's where I really saw like solo bass playing on like a large scale. It wasn't just hearing my stand partner like play a bit of what he was doing or like hearing about it. It was really centered on like, okay, let's hear the bass. Let's hear a lot of people playing at a lot of different levels, and for the most part, I was hearing people who were younger than me, or older than me, or my age, who were playing at an extremely high level and playing music that I hadn't heard before.
Right.
I always, at that age, I was really attracted to like classical music with a big C. I really liked. I loved like Mozart 40th Symphony. I loved Mozart Clarinet Concerto. Like Mozart Clarinet Concerto, like one of my all-time favorite concertos. Just second movement is just breathtaking. Yeah. And I heard, I don't know who played it. I'm not really sure. Maybe one day I should like scroll through see if I can find a program.
Yeah, a lot of them.
I
have some of them, but I didn't save them all. But
But they played the Dittersdorf Concerto, which now looking back, I'm like, oh, it's just the Dittersdorf. But like at the time, I was like,
so great, yeah.
Like, oh, whoa, like
that's a
classical bass concerto.
Yeah, exactly.
And it sounded, because like I knew music and I played music. It sounded like classical music. I was like, oh wait, I could do that.
Yeah,
like that's something I could do.
Yeah,
I don't have to play clarinet to do that. Like I could do that. Like, and
that's cool.
So I heard someone play that in the master class or play it recital or something like that, and I called my teacher who had sent me to the camp and encouraged me to go, and I said, I really want to do one of the pieces I wanted to do. I think I had two. One of them was, I think, like a Rabath concerto, and she didn't know it, but I was like, I want to do it. I looked for it at the table, and it was sold out. I was like, but I also really want to do the Dittersdorf. So that one I found really easy.
Okay, cool.
Still haven't played Rabath concerto.
It's a good one.
I'll put it in my drawer one day for that.
Yeah, his third concerto is one of my favorite pieces by him.
Yeah,
it's just full of melodicism.
Yeah,
it's crazy. But yeah, that's kind of nice. I, definitely thank you for coming on the podcast, because it's hopefully designed to inspire any younger person out there to understand that, it wasn't just 1 week workshop that made you what you are. That's for sure, because you're a very amazing artist. But it helps for you to know that there's a pathway to something like that. You know what I mean? Like, and to open up your eyes to what you can do with the instrument.
Yes.
So saying that, I kind of want to shift a little bit of gears, because what I found and what I really love about you is that you remind me of me before I met George too, which, by the way, George was very open about his books are about solo books. They're not about the bass line yet, right? Like they slowly getting there. So by the time you get to the last book, he puts the Beethoven Ninth in there to say, hey, if you're not actually digging the bass lines to the symphonies yet. Now's the time, because now you can play like,
Right.
if you can play like the Dragonetti or the Nanny Concerto,
Right.
you are missing out if you don't go to the orchestra
Right
and
on.
actually play some of the greatest works of art. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
man. And so when I get to hear him play in my symphony, which is awesome. The bass section is the best it's been since I can recall. And we've had some really great bass sections, but they really are a great unit. But you're just so passionate about playing in orchestras.
Oh yeah.
And so here's this idea that's really important, because I'm the same way. And I even remember talking to George about this. Like, you have all these students that just want to be a bass soloist, you know, like that's, you know, like why wouldn't you want them to play the bass line? And of course, George knew that most of his books, and many of my students, and I think you were pretty young too, that you were done with the books before you hit high school or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You know, like you could play all that stuff.
Right.
And so it's great, you know, it's great if you understand the age that it can achieve. And then in this case, you know, like before you get to middle school, you could play the Dragonetti or the Nanny Concerto.
Right.
Sorry, I still call it the Dragonetti just because most people know the name.
With quotes.
Yeah, it's, but everybody knows it. But you know, like it's great piece. I love it. I still love it. It's not the greatest piece, but it's kind of the first fireworks piece. So I got to get my finger to go. You know, like,
yeah.
And the Dittersdorf, same thing. You know, like I kind of like the Dittersdorf's better, of course, but that's my taste. But that idea that eventually, to be in the orchestra, the section playing all slamming, and then the rest of the orchestra, all that sound around you, the smorgasbord of sound, you know, like solo pieces can kind of feel empty because it's just one sound.
It's,
you know,
I think
great.
there's a dualism to it.
Sure.
I mean, I think that one feeds the other. You know, I got a lot better in, you know, high school and college, and even now, a lot more musical playing solo material, and I understand. I feel like I'm starting to understand, you know, melody better and better, and that allows me. It informs me.
Hit a couple phrases that were sound like you understand it.
Maybe two good phrases. If I
no, more than that.
Most musicians, you know, as a side note, musicians, if like and I tell my students this too, it's like we love phrases, and we spend so much time just trying to make a good phrase. And if we can make one good phrase, we are very happy people, because it's so like the notes and the fingerings are wonderful, and they're hard, and getting, you know, in time in tune with the good sounds, my dad always said. He couldn't be more right. But the craft of like making a phrase is like your whole life. So if I can make one or two good phrases, you know, I'm okay with that. Heifetz makes way more. You know, Oistrakh, like every phrase is so beautiful. So anyway,
so that
playing that sort of music can inform me, but how to play a better bass line. You know, because the bass line is oftentimes inherently like supportive or responsive, or like, you know, underlying of what the melody is doing. And then it goes the other way too. You know, when I was playing a lot of this material, you can hear it in the Gabrielli. There's an inherent kind of implied bass line, and knowing the harmony and knowing where it's going, it's mostly sequences in this piece. It's mostly just like pretty plain sequences, but knowing where they are and the direction they're going, which is a bass line, can inform how you should direct it.
You have to know it, and also, you know, like the idea of when you're playing the great symphonies. I mean, you just mentioned Mozart's 40th, you know, like how do you top that? You know, like I mean,
it's amazing.
It's great, and I know we talked about that. your one of your all-time favorite is Brahms 1, right?
Brahms 1 is, top 5 favorite symphonies, that's probably up there.
Yeah.
Sibelius 7's on there.
Yeah.
Some Due to You, but
I-
Brahms 1 in terms of like the big meat and potatoes pieces, you can't really improve on it.
I definitely have that, like, I love this piece so much, and it's number 1, and then next week I'm like, and now it's down to 3.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
I don't want to put one up there forever.
No.
You know, like, I just,
No.
it's
a little-
it's
it's
like food, you know,
Yeah.
I don't want to eat
It's
the
a little
same
bit
thing
like the
every day.
planets, they now this one's in Taurus or whatever.
Yeah,
now this one's this one's
we
this
need
one.
different
They rotate.
seasons.
Yeah, there's seasons
so
to it.
we're
There's seasons
not-
to it.
Nobody needs to be number 1
No,
anyway.
no,
So
no.
it's like we're glad to have all.
Yeah.
But when I've seen you and you've worked with my students and talked to them about their excerpts and stuff like that, and how you're like, I mean, this is something that I love to do, and I try to get them to think about it when they're playing the bass line. I mean, most of the time, we all know that there's so many bass parts. The bass part's easy. You never have to practice that part again, right? Like, technically it's easy. Sometimes. Exactly. But, so Pachelbel's canon, are you going to go home and practice that one? Probably not.
That one.
Not that one.
Do the first 4 measures. You got the rest of it.
You got it. But what's great is it's still a wonderful piece to perform if you're listening to what's going on around you.
Yeah.
Your part's easy. And then, of course, in some
Yeah.
pieces, Mozart, you're going to have to practice that for quite some time before you
Yeah.
get it up. And if the conductor's a little crazy, he's going to push the tempo a little faster,
man.
and you're ready,
The
and you want
last
to
movement
kill
of
him.
that piece,
Yeah.
I'm still working on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Still
And,
working on it.
is the clarity there? I don't know.
Yeah.
But, so there's that idea that when bass players are so, I find, because I've never had this discussion with other instruments. Maybe some other instruments. But it seems like since we're down low, and sometimes we really can just listen to every part in the symphony, and you're like that, like when you play that, you're like, but the horns are doing this, and I love my second teacher was Larry Rice, and he would do that all the time. He would just play the bass line and sing all the parts to me while he's like, it's so great, this is coming in, get ready,
Yeah.
And when Larry retired, I said, what are you going to do now? And he goes, I'm just going to sit with the scores.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he's still memorizing all the parts,
Yeah.
What a joy that is to
It's
to
such
show
a
people.
like a colorful palette, It's such like a varied canvas to be in.
We're like the bass section is just like one color, like on the like there's there's the strings, and we're just the lowest voice of the strings, and sometimes we're sometimes we're doubled by or doubling the low brass, or sometimes we're playing with bassoons, or sometimes we're playing with timpani, sometimes we're playing alone, sometimes we're doubled by the cello, sometimes we're not. The bass often isn't just a string instrument. Depending on who, we played Schumann 3 2 weeks ago, and his writing is Schumann's very strange orchestration. Like, some people think he didn't really know how to orchestrate. I think he did know how to orchestrate, but it's very quirky. So there's not a lot of one line, first line and second line. It's there's all these little things going, and now for these 2 bars we're playing with this instrument, and this one. So knowing where you're fitting in is sometimes so intriguing. Who you're playing with at any given moment.
Yeah. So that idea of playing, in a symphony is so exciting. I mean, we think, hey, some people are like, oh, I have to audition and get the gig and move on and get the better gig and get better gig, and then sometimes people are just, I don't know, you get this feeling that the that road kind of can break people's artistry. You know, like they can start just slogging away at the orchestra thing.
Yeah, I understand.
But if you view it this way,
right.
I mean, and this is the message I'm just trying to get to a young person out there, like how passionate it is that if you're really studying the music and being part of it and making it come alive like that, like it's easy. I say that to all of my students that come back to me and they're like, well, I know how to play the Dragonetti, but then I go to Orchestra and I'm playing whole notes. I'm like, yeah, but what else is going on?
But those are great whole notes. Like they need
exactly.
They need those
need
whole
to be
notes
right
man,
there.
You know? Like,
so if you start listening to the whole piece, like classical music, it doesn't get better than this genre of music. You know, like. I mean, I love playing jazz myself. I love playing rock and roll.
Yeah. Everything needs a bass line, you know?
Exactly.
You know, it's like the stock of a soup or like, you know, salt, you know, every when you're baking, like you need salt in your bread. Like we need the bass line. Yeah. You know, like
and it's so cool. I mean, that's the thing about the bass is like literally sometimes the whole notes mean more than the fast runs. Yeah. We all like the fast runs.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you hear
the fourth movement,
Mozart 41. The theme of it is the bass line.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of stuff going on. You know, a lot of fireworks. But throughout the whole piece, it's do re fa mi. It's whole notes. It's like enjoy your whole notes. Some beautiful notes.
Yeah.
Like you know.
And
I love whole notes.
Right, and I think that's the best part of, you know, I want the best part of playing in any ensemble is what the bass can do to the overall picture. Yeah. Especially when you're thinking of the overall picture, I do find, you know, the younger the person, the less they really understand that, you know. They're just because we like to practice and have challenges and be able to execute it. And so a fast note is always fun. And then, you know, like, so to just play something easy, we think, oh, it's just too easy, but not when you're thinking in the context of everything else. I also want just to pick your brain on this idea that sometimes it's also what the bass section does rhythmically to the piece, because
absolutely,
you know, like some, you know, violins are over there working maybe a little too fast. They can always speed up, and we can always hold them back a little bit, you know, or vice versa, you know, like that idea of like, especially when I'm in, you know, a one bass situation, then you really control
the basses are like like
where you put it in the beat.
We're
like, are you on top of the beat, behind the beat? Do you think about that as a bass section?
Absolutely. Especially with pizzicati, and especially with like, I kind of want to say like downbeat motion. It's kind of a weird concept, but in terms of pizzicati, like we're always thinking about, you know, like what's the, because we have to play them together. Pizzicatos are events.
Yeah,
they're not.
It's not a flam.
No, we don't want to. We can't be sounding like a bag of marbles hitting the floor. Yeah. So, and you know, some conductors, you know, the downbeat feels like it's there. It's like, bop. And so for some, it's right at the bottom. For some people, it's like this, you know. I'm a Caddyshack might be a little old for. But for some people, it's a little bit of that, and it's like you get like a shake, and then you're like, oh, I'll put it there, and you have to. No matter what, it has to be together. Yeah. You know, it's not necessarily like what the conductor's doing. It's okay. What are we going to do as a section to interpret what's in the music and what the conductor wants to place where the pizzicato needs to be.
Right.
And, you know, in opera, a lot of the time, we have to be extremely early with pizzicato. Puccini, you know, if you don't keep those pizzicato punctuations moving, it's just going to, it has to like really churn forward. And then something like Brahms, you want like this or Mahler, a lot of times the pizzicatos have to be like way held back. Way to, in order for the rhythmic tension to stay, you know, something where it's like boom, 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 bum bum. And if you push it, you want to keep it taut.
Yeah,
Keep it taut. Yeah.
So I think about the rhythm aspect of that, and I just, anyone out there, if you're listening to different versions of, like one of the coolest things, assignments that I ever had in my undergrad was, he said, take your favorite piece and go listen to 10 different versions of this piece and come back and tell me which one was your favorite and why, and which one was your worst. It's
hard.
It was really an eye-opening thing to say, and most of it dealt with the rhythm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everybody played the notes. It was in tune.
Right.
It was nice to listen to, because I didn't get, it was like major orchestras, all the legends, who was right. Most of them all played everything in the score. Was all, it wasn't.
They were good recordings.
Yeah, and good versions of them.
But the timing,
and it was sometimes, the timing was.
The timing is
dynamics was the second thing that was the real thing. Some of them was like, that was great, but they just started blowing so loud that you couldn't hear all this other stuff. Or this wasn't, the balance between the chord just wasn't as perfect as the other one.
Right.
So those are the things that you really, and I wanted to ask this question, like when you're rehearsing for orchestra, you only have so many hours of rehearsal. It's not like college where you play the whole piece for a number of weeks and then you go play it. It's, how many rehearsals per concert do you do for the concert?
Let's see. So usually either 4 or 5, but with that's for the whole concert.
Right,
so we'll
right,
normally have double Tuesday, double Thursday, and a dress Friday.
Right.
And then we play 3 concerts in the weekend.
And so that's 3 hours worth of pieces, approximately. 2.5.
Yeah, it's about an hour 45 of music.
Okay.
Right. That's about how long.
That's how.
Sometimes 250. It depends, because there's intermission. There's 20 minutes. So
okay. Cool.
You see how that works.
I was adding that in. Okay. So approximately 2 hours.
Yeah. Give or take.
Which means that's that idea that definitely in the case of George Vance, you get a lot of people memorizing the solo pieces because George picked the pieces so where they can actually be showed to by the instructor, so you can work on the visual and the technical, so you can learn with your senses, all your senses, the eyes, the ears, the movement, and everything. So he picked pieces that were easier to memorize. I don't know if you realize that, but they're easier. Yeah. So he threw out the ones that were like, okay, that's a cool piece. It teaches the right technique, but you're going to have to spend some more time memorizing that one.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So, like the Nanny Concerto, it is one big scale up and down. It doesn't. There's not as much arpeggiation as other things.
Right.
And scales are, scale sequences are easier to learn or memorize because you just hear it going up and down the scale.
Right.
But that idea that for an orchestra player, sight reading is very important, right? Because you got to be able to.
I'm a very bad sight reader.
Oh, I asked the wrong question.
I'm a very poor sight reader.
Well,
I shouldn't say that. I'm a good sight reader, but not in the grand scheme. Some I know people who are really good sight readers.
Yeah, I know. But so we don't want to self-critique.
Don't sight read. Kids.
You're already going to sight read better than most people.
Yeah.
But the idea of an orchestra player almost has to be able to read it, the first time pretty well.
One
because
thing
you're
that
not going to have
I
that
find
much
interesting,
time.
and this is something I'm learning as I'm teaching, and now that I'm teaching more, is that like when I'm reading music, I'm not like playing it and then the sounds come out. Like I look at the music and I can tell what it sounds like.
Right.
Because I've played a lot, I've done ear training, I can sight sing. So I'm not like sight reading. I'm reading it and I'm like, I know what it sounds like, and then I play what's on the page. So like, if I see a B flat on the page, like I know what it's gonna sound like.
Right.
I don't have perfect pitch, but like, if I know where my key
Yeah,
center
yeah,
is,
yeah, yeah.
So, but I think one thing is that when you're first starting to read music or you're first learning how to sight read, it can be a little bit like whack-a-mole.
It's kind of
like you don't really you don't know what's going to come out. Yeah. So you see a C natural and you play, and you're like, oh, quarter note C, but like you're not necessarily visualizing or actualizing what you're hearing before you do. You're not thinking, I want this C to sound.
Yeah.
Like you're not. Oh, I can see a dot, and we're in agitato, agitato, or it's piano, leggero, when we're not, So a lot of the time, I encourage my students. I'm like, okay, you need to taw these rhythms. You need to sing this part.
Yeah.
Or you need to like know what this is going to sound like before you play it.
Well, that's a good point, because that's another reason why George wanted to start with lyrical phrases, because especially the bass down low, blah,
hard
blah,
to hear.
Like, I'm pretty sure that I had a pretty good ear, but after 4 years, I finally got the thing in tune.
Yeah.
And I still work on it.
I'm still trying to get
it
into it.
Yeah, but I mean, to the point where I'm like, okay, that's really a D, and I didn't shift up to a D sharp or something like crazy like that.
In undergrad, a conductor said, a colleague of mine, we both went to school together. Mm-hmm. He's in the symphony with me now, but we were both in the section together, and he was principal of the section at the time. We rotate in college and all. But the conductor had said, basses, it's just a C major scale, and we broke out laughing. It's like, what do you mean it's just a C major scale? Like, you clearly don't know. It's like, like I have trouble playing like an open string in tune. Man? So man,
come on, man.
And my friend was like, it's just a C major scale.
Well,
it's hard. It takes a lot of time.
It takes time, and there's so much involved in getting the bass in tune.
Yes.
That like the legend Mozart complaining that the bass is never played in tune or whatever. Like it's sad. Like whoa.
Yeah.
But like if you like the piano tuners that I know, they're like, yeah, I couldn't hear the bass notes in tune for like 2 years of playing or tuning. Like now I really hear it in tune. There's something about that sub octave that takes time for your ear to hear.
Super hard. It's super hard.
So that idea of, when I first met George, I thought he was the craziest dude on the planet, because he was like, I'm going to teach a little kid how to play way up here. And part of the reason is so that they can learn to hear the pitch down there.
Yeah.
That's why you go up before you go down. It's also easier to develop the bow for a kid, instead of, was my favorite thing is George at ISB, first ISB we went to, so my mind was blown, and then he goes, I'm going to do the most virtuosic thing on the bass. And I was like, wow, this is going to be something. And he just plays a low F. And he goes,
hard. Yeah.
And I was like, this guy's nuts. I don't understand him. And, obviously I was a Smandel kid, and the first note is E, F sharp, D.
Right.
Get that in tune. So again, I don't think I played in tune for many years. And I don't think it's just the George Vance books that do that, but it definitely helps us, especially a small child,
Yeah.
It helps them get to the point where they're finding the pitch on their own ear and hearing it.
Yeah. It's hard to develop a personal relationship with a note that's low. That's that low.
Mm-hmm.
A lot, the instruments that I find most appealing are the instruments that model the human voice, and the human voice very rarely plays as low as a bass. So the range. I mean, or even if you're when you're a kid, your voice is generally higher, but the voices even you're hearing, your parents' voice or the adults' voices, those are the ones you're used to having a relationship with. Those are the ones you're used to responding to, listening to, hearing the tone of voice, and that's occurring, like D on the G string and above. So those are the notes that you have a relationship with.
I have a low A. I can sing a low A,
oh,
but it still can't. I don't know if it really helped me in the bass. I definitely like the bass because it's reminds me of me. But it was so for me the bass was was more rhythmical.
Yeah.
I mean, I started in a rock band, so
Right.
I was a drummer first, but it really changed the rhythm to play the low pitch,
Yes.
like you're moving things that nobody knows.
Yeah.
You know, you're like the dump truck, and it's
Yeah, yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
But I wanted, there was the idea of sight reading, and I wanted to say that about that program because the George Vance books, since I know them very well, and I know George because I just relentlessly study with him about teaching little kids, and he kept going back to it's a solo book, like every piece is solo, but the ultimate goal is what you're describing, which is playing in the orchestra,
Playing with other people.
And playing with other-
even if it's
yeah.
solo, you can play solo music, making music with other people, making music for other people.
well, but not like the bass in the bottom is
Oh, yeah.
what he was talking
Oh, I
about.
see,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like
Right
like
on.
that's and that's what it's
Yeah.
kind of this idea that how passionate you are about playing the bass in the orchestra.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
the solo competition was just like, oh yeah, I like playing solos. I'm going to do this because the pandemic hit, and as you say, there are two things that really need to shake each other's hand.
Yes, that's
You
right.
know, and I think if you're only in the orchestra, you can get burnout or slogging away, as I just said, and you just feel like you're playing the same 10 symphonies
yeah,
or whatever.
it-
Like it could get really. Who wants to do that?
Well, I mean,
but
it you have to be,
What-
you have to love it.
you guys had
Yeah.
a new cuss word not last Christmas before. You called it double nutcrackers, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
said, oh man, that's like the ultimate cuss word for
Oh,
an
yeah.
orchestral
I got
musician
double
in
nutcrackers
December.
on Sunday.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, double nutcrackers.
You know,
Ugh.
there's
So
you gotta just find something in it. I know when you're playing music that you might be playing for like the 12th time that
Yeah,
week, like a
yeah.
nutcracker. There's always something to enjoy in it. I mean,
yeah, it's a
if
great.
you think
piece.
about it, like the
I
kids,
mean,
the people watching Nutcracker.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
If I was in the audience, I'd be
Exactly.
having a great time.
I know.
So like, yeah, I mean, even if the part, and first of all, Nutcracker is not necessarily like an easy part.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's
At least some cool stuff in there, and
Yeah,
the
Troika's
the
hard.
melodies, man. Talk
Yeah.
about melodic, just
Oh, yeah,
earworm. I mean, you can't stop singing those
No,
things,
no.
man. So, but it's not just that. I also wanted to say one other thing about where I was kind of leading this whole thing was
Mm-hmm.
that idea. I said that about like the reason why I think the bass section itself right now is the best that the Kansas City Symphony has been since I've been listening to it as a young child, which is only at least 10 years or something. I don't know, it's a little bit longer than that, but it's gone through some great things. But the fact of it is that now, like, the whole symphony seems to play together. Now, as I said, dynamically, you guys are all the same. Like the chords are balanced like crazy. Part of that is that we have this new concert hall, and you didn't ever have to play in the old
I was
lyric.
never in the lyric.
It
I've
was
heard
like a
about it.
box.
I heard it was like a box with lined in carpet.
You couldn't hear anything. I mean, it was an old stage and
Yeah.
it
That's how a
wasn't
lot
really
of them
made
are.
for
Yeah.
orchestra. Like they didn't make it for orchestra. They
Right.
made it for opera or not opera, but it was
Right.
it was something else before it was the opera house. But
Interesting.
it was not acoustically great.
We're very fortunate to have the hall we have now.
And now it's like you can hear everything, and you feel like that performing on the stage, right? You
Yeah.
can hear everybody,
Yeah.
and like I think that's where modern halls are. Like it's great. It's really acoustically important, and but also the section as like whenever you guys get together and talk, and I get to hang out with you guys sometimes, it's really fun because I don't ever hear this. I mean, occasionally you're venting double nutcrackers, but
it's always
you
still
guys
a job.
you guys
but,
are
like,
all excited about
Yeah.
what you're gonna do.
And we're excited about making music together. Like I think
Exactly.
one of the big things about orchestra is that it's about people. Like music is about people. Music is about making connections and communicating. Like that's what music is. But orchestra, playing in an orchestra, playing in a large ensemble, it's about making music together. And that is like something that.
But you guys are excited about the other people, and that's important because
with my standpoint, with my friends.
I don't know if the past, especially when I was younger in the '80s and '90s, like those people didn't look like they even cared to even, they didn't. It didn't look like they looked like they were punching the clock.
Oh god.
Sometimes, not all the time, but
you have to
it did
resist that.
It meant
urge.
on different years because just like anything, you have your ups and downs. But like certain conductors bring this excitement and really get everybody on the same page. And I think the symphony is just cranking right now. It's really cool.
It's getting better and better. It's incredible. Every year, I feel like I'm getting better at playing with the orchestra, and I feel like the orchestra is getting better playing together.
Yeah.
And I think everyone feels that. Like everyone in the orchestra feels that, and I think the audience feels it too. A friend of mine came up to me, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I heard Scheherazade last night. It's the best the orchestra's ever sounded."
Yeah.
I was like, it's really
that's great.
They're not wrong. That's also just
one of my
a big old
up there in my number category too. It's just so good.
Yeah.
But so that's what I wanted to say, because in this case we practice, and you've practiced your whole life just to make this connection, and you'll practice boring things like scales and etude books,
open strings,
and get your bow down and get the bow stroke perfect. For precision, I mean, fair to say, most of my rehearsals are not, do you know the notes? As I said, you have to be a good sight reader. You have to be able to play all that stuff. You have to, but what each note means and how you're going to place it in the dynamic range and in the metric range, ahead of the beat. Those are the things that rehearsals are really for.
Yeah.
What I mean?
Balance and playing together.
And if you got some people that just can't play a part or something, then it really can, it's just being on a job and somebody can't do that part, and then all of a sudden it starts to get unbalanced. So you really got to have, I don't know, how many people are in your symphony right now?
80, I think.
80. So you have 80 people on their mental and physical, toes. They can't. You can't really go punch the clock.
No.
It goes really bad, really fast.
Yeah.
In a major orchestra like you're in. It's incredible to win. If you know that, and then you go see the KC Symphony, it may give you a greater appreciation to that.
Yeah, I mean, what we're doing.
Which, by the way, I want to say this because you mention this to me all the time. It's like, you're going to come see me? This is going to be great because I know somebody else in the audience is actually listening to me as a bass player. So I'm going to...
Or I just love knowing someone in the audience. I like knowing that there's someone there to play for. I like waving to someone afterward. I like knowing that they had a good experience, because I remember as a kid going to orchestra concerts and feeling really enjoying it, and then being able to talk to musicians after. I know it makes we want to play for you. We're not just like a toy box of music that you open up and we do our little thing and you put us away. We want to play for you. We love doing it. So come up and say hi.
That's fantastic.
Okay,
so I said this, I kind of want to have this trajectory of the final thing that I want to say is you've taken over at UMKC for the bass studio, which is really exciting because UMKC is really, it's the music conservatory here in Kansas City for people that don't know. And it's always been fantastic. You know,
Yeah.
Bransby used to teach there, and I mean, like, it's got a long legacy.
There's a long legacy and
so you
great,
got
great history.
no stress, no pressure.
I know. Right?
But it's exciting
Yeah.
to do that. Great classical orchestra and great teachers in probably all the instruments.
Absolutely.
I can't think of a whole,
Absolutely.
and people go there just to study with those people,
Yeah.
which is exciting. And but UMKC also has one of the great jazz programs.
Oh yeah.
And my jazz teacher is Gerald Spates, who is a Kansas City guy, but just
I love
swinging.
Gerald, yeah.
He swings like a real Kansas City musician,
Yeah.
because Kansas City swings differently than
They do.
other places. And so he has the old school stuff, and I just love that about listening to
He's
him
also
play.
a great teacher and a really nice guy too.
Great teacher.
So good.
I know, he taught me.
Yeah.
I'm flawless. No,
That's true.
But the program, Bobby Watson just stepped down, but one of the great, like, it's Bobby Watson, genius,
Yeah.
legend. It's great, but it has that. So the fact that you got two great bass teachers in one place,
I know.
like, that's pretty epic.
Yeah, it's
So
really, really exciting.
Really exciting.
It's
and
exciting.
So
Yeah, I'm so happy to be teaching there. I'm really loving working with the students I have. I've loved meeting all my colleagues, and I'm really looking forward to growing the department there. And
yeah.
I'm a young teacher, but I mean, you know what it's like when every teacher starts young. You don't.
Well, yeah, but I should say this because you've come and taught some of my students, and I just was struck by how you have it. And I was young when I met George, and he just looked at me and said, "Where'd you learn to teach like that?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just love teaching."
Yeah.
And you really have that love of teaching
It might
too.
be from my father. I mean, my father
Yeah.
played guitar
Oh.
and double bass for 25. He was a
Yeah.
musician for 25
Oh,
years.
then there, you're
my father taught. So
like a prodigy. You're a teaching prodigy. So I don't know.
Well, maybe
no,
not.
no
Maybe not.
pressure.
I don't know about that.
But I do know.
But I love it because
Yeah.
I know how much of an impact it has.
Yeah.
Seeing my father teach and learning from him and knowing the impact that learning to play a musical instrument or listening to music or making those connections it's so important. So that's really why I teach.
Well, that's why I was glad that you can come on here, because that's what like I say this to a lot of people that that every generation, every 10 years, we just get more and more like better, in this case, better orchestra players going in there for the right reasons, not just to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
And then also people going into the teaching not just to pay the bills. Like, I mean, I hope you pay your bills because you deserve that, but like it shouldn't be the driving force.
I don't make a lot of money teaching. I do it. I oftentimes I know last year there was a student who came to me, a jazz student who wanted private lessons teaching classical.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you're not gonna pay me, man. Like,
Yeah.
like you just want a couple lessons playing. Like,
Yeah.
I'll teach you for a little bit, and then because he's going off to conservatory, he
Yeah,
just wanted
sure.
to learn some bow. I'm like, yeah. Like it's a giving, because I've done that. When you want to get a lesson with someone, we're generous. We want to teach. I don't do it for money. I do it because
there's a base family
I love
thing.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Then again, check should be in the mail.
Yeah. Well, and like I've learned a long time ago, because I definitely started teaching. I was teaching my friends because they come, how do you do that? And they're like, oh, check it out. You just go into it, and then you start to get better at teaching. And and like I actually started as a performance major, and then I just realized I needed to be a teacher, so I switched midway and got my education degree.
Yeah.
And it was great because like, I didn't get to practice as much, but by that time I was
But what you've
ready.
done for Kansas City is so great. Being able to develop like the Kansas City Bass Fest and developing I know that when I first got this job, in the symphony, Dennis Whitaker, who's the teacher of my colleague Caleb.
Yeah.
We both came. That's the guy I was talking about. We both came from the same school and stuff. So Dennis contacted me and he said, "Oh, you should meet Johnny because he's." Oh, okay. And then I looked Johnny up, and we got to. We briefly said hello on Facebook.
Yeah.
And that you bring so much liveliness and interest and energy for your students, for your young students here. It elevates the culture of the city and the music making of the city.
Well, that's what that's what I've found now, and that's part of the reason why this podcast is like I'm spending my time doing this is to bring that up. As I said, the Bass Fest was originally just the faculty playing at the end of the night, and there was 5 people there or something, and like it was a boring bass concert, but we know what was happening, and then every year the concert series just kept getting bigger, and now people are like, hey, I want to come just see that bass week because they look forward to it. And it's great because they're not bass players. Like some of them are bass players that aren't classical bass players, but like it's all that, and of course I'm still working on putting all this stuff together because sometimes people like classical musicians think, oh, I just have to stay here, but most classical musicians now love rock and roll, love jazz, like they probably play it just like my favorite is Sean Conley was like, I was getting my degree with Rice and I just go home and figure out Charlie Parker songs just to put my brain to sleep.
Something
else
to do.
Just I had to do that or talk to physics, do my just to unwind or do a change of pace.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
But so that's the last thing I like to say this to any teacher, especially at the college level, because college level it gets a little bit sometimes, like I said about the worker mentality of a orchestra musician or any musician, like we could just start feeling like we're going to the thing. I mean, any job has that, but I teach kids and sometimes I'm like, I just want to talk to an adult, but not for very long. Like you have to have that drive and that reason why you really want to do it, and you have to want to do it.
It makes me want to come back despite the things. The world think. There's no job that is a seamless, perfect thing, but it's that every day I want to go back.
Because it's exciting.
It's exciting.
And so that when I say this, that I find that to me, just because one of the things I loved about George was that he was independent. Like he never had a boss, and I've never had a boss either. So you actually have a boss because you work for a college and you work for a symphony. And if they tell you do this, then you have to go, okay, you're not a slave to it, but literally, my wife and my son are my bosses, and sometimes when
Leon's got you on.
It's fine with me, but I've never really had somebody, like I've been self-employed my whole life, and there's certain freedom in that, like it's kind of nice. And George was kind of similar, and he really believed in that, and he saw that in me, which was great. So since I'm that way, there's a trap that I see sometimes college teachers make, and I'm just gonna ask you this question, ponder it. I'm not, but like you want your students to leave as creatively full as possible, but then there's this idea that I have to send them out there and they got to go get a job, which is not necessarily that easy, right? So like as I mentioned, like here are the 5 concertos that you have to learn. You have to learn Bach. Like, do you really have to learn all that stuff? Or can you drive the creative bus of an artist Like where is that balance for you, and
So
what do you think?
I feel like my job as a teacher is, so my dad always said there's like everyone needs two different teachers in their life. One teacher to inspire and get them interested, and then if they're super gung-ho about it and ready to kind of teach themselves, like ready to want to learn how to teach
To do the
themselves,
work,
do the work.
Yeah,
then
that's
you
a
need
good
a
one.
teacher to kind of.
Crack-
My dad would
crack the whip.
say. My dad would say actually exactly that. Crack the whip.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
exact. I try not. I don't think of it, but
No, that's great,
It's
yeah.
ready to push them.
Yeah.
In a nice and kind of cooperative way. Like it's something you do together.
Yeah. No.
So it's a tough battle. Music school is you
you
at
gotta
the end of the
pass.
day, when you're there, you have to be doing it because you love it, and
Yeah.
everything else is secondary to it.
I told you this guy was great. That's fantastic.
Because getting a
Response.
job in it or not getting a job, you better be working hard and loving it. Because if you're not,
Yeah.
it won't be fulfilling, and you won't do what you want in the end anyway.
And what's great is I got to see, like Ted Botsford and Sean Conley and Harish. You know Harish?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. They all, I watched Nina. I don't know, all these really great, stellar musicians. I saw them walk down that road of going to auditions, and it's a struggle sometimes, and they all obviously got to the point where they're in these great places, like so. But that walk, the journey down there, and that's what. George pointed out to me, he was like, they've got to love it. And all those people I just rattled off, like they worked so hard. They all had different levels of what they could do and what they couldn't do and everything. But they all just ran passionately to do it. And sometimes I yell out to people, I'm inspired for more than my lifetime. Because I met Francois Rabat and George, who both like lit this flame under a lot of people. And that's kind of neat. And obviously there's my teachers before them. As I mentioned, Mr. Rice inspired me to love the orchestra bass lines and listen to all the parts. My first teacher was Misha, who's Russian, so nothing's not more passionate than that. I just love the way he plays the bass. He just his phrasing is just like it's awesome. So like you have to inspire that way. The way you put that is perfect, because college is a different animal than teaching younger students.
There's expectations.
And you have to if you're teaching somebody how to be a doctor, I'd hope you thoroughly teach them well, because
exactly.
So the same thing with an orchestra musician or a professional musician. Like you can't miss, you'll miss some, but you can't miss. Your percentages are way up there.
One thing I say to some people though is, everyone plays out of tune eventually.
That's right.
Everyone
all
plays out of tune eventually.
All the great athletes gonna miss.
Yeah.
Like it's as I said, percentages.
Yeah.
But that artistic question is, you see what I mean by a trap.
Yes.
It can be so easy to just say, "Oh, I got to get you ready," and forget to keep keep the inspiration going. So I mentioned those people that and I can rattle off 20 other ones, Rex, all those people that you won your chair at a pretty young age, right? How old were you? 25, so just out of undergrad. Did you do your master's?
There's just out of master's.
Okay. So that's pretty great.
Yeah.
So that's nice. So
I know.
You can, I know that he was at a high level before he ever even went into college. You know what I mean? Like You weren't like, oh, maybe I'll do this.
No, I knew I wanted to go into music when I was in like 7th grade.
Right.
I was like, I made the decision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like you get that idea, and I love that thing. And so you would be going to UMKC, you would be in really good hands of getting out of there knowing how to play the bass very thoroughly, but also not squashed.
No, I want to do. I'm always interested in what your goals are and what you want to accomplish and what your interests are. Because at the end of the day, like I'm what my teacher in undergrad said, and you know, as I get older and as I get wiser, I find that his advice is like the most golden. Larry Wolf.
Oh yeah.
He's his like the
That's
most sage.
your master's or undergrad?
My undergrad.
Undergrad. Yeah.
He's like a second father to me in terms of like his wisdom.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm here," because I was such a driven kid.
Yeah,
I was like, "Push me, like tell me what I'm doing wrong." And he's
Yeah.
like, "I'm here to help you learn how to teach yourself."
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like that's what I want to be as a teacher. Like I want to be able to help you learn how to achieve your goals. So I want you to have goals. I want you to be interested. I want to come up with goals with you. Like let's figure out what we want to do together, so I can help you learn that. And then you later on you'll have those tools to do that yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's really important because, like I said, for me as a young bass teacher, I'm honored and I hold that in highest regard. That I'm the one that just puts as much inspiration inside them, so that way when they get to the undergrad and they get super serious, that they know how to handle that.
Yeah.
So I actually, my first 10 years, sometimes I'd send them off and they were, you know, fish out of water, and they were like, oh, we were just having fun. All of a sudden they go to a teacher and it didn't go so well, you know. Like, he was yelling at me. Well, sorry, you need that, you know. Like
I do not yell at people.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, there wasn't that much.
Not yet.
Yeah, but that idea, you know, like there's definitely, so usually when the kids get, you know, older and I start really being a little bit, I make sure that I kind of turn that page a little bit and be a little bit, start talking more serious to them about pushing them to, you know, have a scale regimen and have a, you know, like really take that part seriously instead of just, I want to play, you know, wiggle my fingers fast, you know. I got a lot of students who can do that, so that's
right on.
But so anyway, that's really great that you're here, and as I said, the bass section's really, it's just, as you said, it's a good clip.
Wonderful bass section.
Yeah,
we're not just colleagues, we're friends too. We all hang out, text, and
it's a
warm environment.
Yeah, they're all great, and hopefully I get all of you guys on here either one by one. And I mentioned we should try to get down there and just hang out.
That would be cool.
Because even just examining your setups and what you guys all do, it's different
Take
things.
a tour of the bass room.
The tour, yeah, we should do that. Yeah. That'd be fun. But anyway, I'm gonna sign off here.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it's great. You're not too far away, so anytime. We should play one more song. Should we do the duo?
Yeah. So this is something I recorded with my fiance Mary Ferrillo. She's a violist in the Boston Symphony. This is a duo sonata by Johann Sperger for viola and double bass. And this is the last movement from it, I believe. I think we're gonna get
And you guys recorded this because you were in lockdown.
Yeah,
so you had some time together.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were the only ones. You know, who else am I gonna play with other than her? I mean, she's pretty good. So
yeah,
she's very good. She's the best.
Hope you enjoyed the episode of Jammin' with Johnny and Casey Bass Stream. Please don't forget to check out johnnyhamel.com and caseybassworkshop.com to keep updated on what's new. I would also like to remind you that I'm an independent artist and music educator. I'll continue to shine the light on bass players and work to build cool creative community that does independent art. That includes my own. I deeply appreciate your support of the artists that are interviewed and to support the things that I do. On both websites there are donation buttons, marketplaces, merchandise, and like buttons. Every little bit helps.